What is going on, people? Welcome to Throwdown, episode 522. I'm your host, Tony Polanco, and tonight I'm joined by Emilio Lopez.
What's up, people? How's it going?
Carlos Romero.
Yo, yo, yo.
Richard Bailey Jr.
What's up, everybody?
And Brian Manjoma.
What's up? What's up?
All right, guys, you already know, back with another one. Hold up, right at the top of the show, bro. Got to give a big shout out to a fellow friend of Throwdown who's on YouTube right now, Mr. Cicero Holmes. Shout out to him.
What's up, Cicero?
Oh, what's up?
How's it going? Long time no see. Where you at? Why aren't you on here? We got to get him on here again.
Yeah, we should. I want to give him a quick shout out. He actually reached out to me for my birthday over the weekend, so that was kind of cool. C, you're gonna be at C2E2. I don't know if Manny's gonna be there, but it'd be good if you guys
I'll be
met.
there.
Oh, there it is. Got to.
I don't got a table assignment, but I know I paid that bill, so I'll be there.
All right, so there you go, because that's where you guys first met, so got to make that epic meeting happen, man. Good stuff. All right, I want to welcome everybody to another episode. No Chris action. I think he has to get up early. And Adam's actually cheating on us right now. He's at another podcast, bro.
No, man, he's on them figure podcast now. He's all about these toys.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, he's an expert in G.I. Joe classified. I got that fool in that stuff.
I got this shit, So Cicero's going to try to be at C2E2. You got to be there, bro.
All right, yeah, let's do it. Let's get something, man.
Yeah, all right. So, yeah, very interesting week in gaming. I wouldn't say a big megatons, but some good megatons. And ironically enough, I don't have the Shuhei Yoshida stuff in the show notes, but we will obviously be talking about that. But first, we got to talk about our favorite person, Mr. Phil Spencer. So if you guys, for you guys who may not know, because I think it did a decent enough job that most people won't know, the image we're using tonight is AI generated, because Xbox is talking all this nonsense about how AI can help game preservation. But we'll get to that. The main thing I want to talk about, which is the most scandalous thing, is basically Phil Spencer said that Xbox is no longer trying to bring over PlayStation and Nintendo users. Just like, we're bringing the games to you guys. And people weren't happy about that. But again, it's like, have you not seen the trends for the last 10 years? Have you not heard this podcast every week for years? You know?
I've been saying it.
Phil Spencer keeps telling you this shit. But who said it on this show? I think it was you, Manny. Where it's like, or you or Carlos were like fucking, peanuts when this guy talks,
I didn't say that, that was probably Carlos. But no, I said the thing about it is, the big thing about all of this, he still hasn't said it, by the way.
Oh, that we're third party?
Yeah. He still hasn't said that Xbox is going third party. He still tap dances around it like the second Uncle Ben in Amazing Spider-Man, where he didn't want to say with great power comes great responsibility. He's like, you have the responsibility to do something about it. Like this really long way around of saying the same thing. That's what Phil's thing is doing right now. He's tap dancing around the idea that on the fact that Xbox is third party.
Yeah,
that's it.
But again, and his exact quote is, "I'm not trying to move them over to Xbox anymore." So he's like, "All right, we're done."
I mean, we've said this before. Software is king.
Yeah.
So, but that is where most companies make their money. They don't make, it's obviously, when they want to make money on their consoles. But again, whenever they release those consoles, what happens? They release them at a loss. They're losing money up to a certain amount of time. And then eventually when the prices of all the hardware goes down and people continue to buy, that's when they start to actually, make the profit off of there. Phil's not trying to sell you any more. Obviously, Phil is not trying to sell you any more boxes. He's trying to sell you games. So they are a third-party company.
Yeah, pretty much. Okay, so I want to read this article. This is from PlayStation University, and I'll read the whole thing because we need the whole full context here. Actually, before we go on, I'll talk about something at the end of this. I'll bring it up. There's something I discussed with the fellas beforehand. I'll bring it up at the end of the show. Just remind me to bring it up because we just went right into it, bro. Okay. Xbox chief Phil Spencer has touched on Microsoft's ongoing plans to release titles on the PS5 during an interview with Xbox Era, where he admitted that while he would prefer to sell games on Xbox formats, he's not going to ignore other fan bases anymore. Phil Spencer was quizzed about comments he made during an FTC hearing, the FTC hearings in 2023, where he stated that Sony's 30% cut earned from Xbox-owned studios selling a title on the PS5 store was being used in deals to block other third-party games from coming to Microsoft's platform. Given the recent shift in strategy that has seen numerous Xbox games come to PS5, Spencer was asked if there is less concern about Sony's cut on more than the 70% that Xbox earns from its games sold on PS5s. So this is what he said. This is what Phil Spencer said. Actually, real quick, Cicero said, Manny, you're right, but I also disagree with them going third party. They already are third party, dude.
They're already third party, dude.
They were the biggest publisher in gaming last year. And, for example, Call of Duty, where was it sold the most on PS5. That's a third party right there, bro.
That's a third party right there.
Yeah.
It's not there. There's no. I don't. You may not. You may.
It's not that they're going third party. They are. They are. Yeah. So this is what Phil Spencer had to say, right from the horse's mouth. It's maybe not what I was going to say on Stan at the time, but yeah, I would love to make all the money from all the games that we ship right now. Obviously, we make more on our own platform. It's one of the reasons that investing in our own platform is important. But there are people, whether it's their libraries on PlayStation or Nintendo, whether it's that they like their controller better, that they just like the games that are there, and I don't want to then look at that and say, well, there's no way we should be able to build a business there, find fans for our franchises there. I'm not trying to move them over to Xbox anymore. We are all so invested in where our games are. Let's just allow more people to play. And yes, the 70% that we make games on other platforms is helpful for us being able to build great portfolios like we showed at Developer Direct, and hope this will continue to show throughout the rest of the year. Yeah, remember that the Developer Direct, all those games are coming to PlayStation. South of Midnight hasn't been confirmed yet. You know it's coming. It's
coming.
So, yeah, there you go right there. They're not bothering anymore. Like you said, they still haven't flat out said we have gone third party, but all the actions prove it,
Yeah. And here's the thing. I'm going to say this. Like, again, the best deal in gaming, but not exactly the best deal in gaming for Microsoft themselves.
Yeah.
They want to increase the amount. They want to increase how much their software sales are. Their software sales. They can't officially do that on their own platform because if everybody's on their service, that's not enough to sustain AAA development. Their service right now. That only works if most of the majority of people are on there, and even then, Netflix will show you right now that they're still not even that profitable. They're always bleeding money.
Yeah, and they're the quote unquote most profitable streaming service, and they're still bleeding. Profitable.
They're still bleeding. So what does that tell you? You put your games on a platform or platforms where people traditionally buy things, because that is where money is really made. You're selling how many copies of Call of Duty to people? That's very different than them just playing it on their little service over there. Nintendo, Nintendo, PlayStation, and Steam. People still buy games on those things.
Yeah, and
I mean,
go ahead.
Their ultimate goal is to have Game Pass as the ultimate, service to have everyone, subscribe to it. But in the meantime, while they're still not, as profitable as they want to be, they need to make as much money as they can, and they're doing that by porting over all of their or most of their games to other systems, whether that be Nintendo, PC, or PlayStation. And we're seeing the trend with the PlayStation games and even more recently, that more recent games and games that have been out for years. So and once Halo, the Master Chief Collection goes on PlayStation, I don't know how anybody will say otherwise, because that's just like the death blow.
Yeah, I mean, if Forza isn't enough to tell you, I don't know. But real quick,
Forza is another one. Yeah.
Yeah. So Cicero says everything you're saying is correct, Manny. But I think you're saying that going third party is a pejorative. What do you say to that?
Pejorative? Is that a negative?
Yeah.
He's saying
that you're saying it like it's a negative thing.
No, I'm not saying that it's a negative at all.
Yeah.
I think you're misreading that. I think the thing about it is I think they don't want to say it because the greater community sees that as a pejorative.
Yeah.
Say that to any Xbox fan, and they will friggin' lose their fucking mind. They're already losing their mind, and they haven't even.
Tim
said
Dog's not on
thing.
Twitter anymore. He's done.
Yeah, exactly. The thing is, it's like there isn't, everybody thinks about Sega and all that sort of stuff, and it's unfortunate that stuff happens, but that also puts yourself in a position where you can make more money. And number one, what was the biggest thing that we always talk about with the Xbox division, where they hide the Xbox division and their services division in something else, because they didn't want anybody in there to see exactly where the money was going and how much they were losing on that. But all of a sudden now they're celebrating it, right? Because they managed to get Activision, and they're shipping games on PlayStation.
Yeah.
Which is the majority of the sales on that. Well, yeah.
So I'm just reading with Cicero. Cicero, we definitely got to get you on the podcast soon. Bro.
Yeah, come on, man.
Yeah. He goes, I'm an Xbox fan and I'm a big supporter of this move. But that's the thing. We should stipulate that the hardcore fanboys are very upset. But if you're an Xbox fan, those guys are like, well, that's cool. I still get to play my games. I don't care.
Exactly.
Like Adam.
So it's like
Adam. Yeah.
Yeah, like the thing is, I think a lot of the guys that are like, they're really in on it, right? Like, in other words, they live that Xbox, they bleed green, and they can't see any of this beyond any of this sort of stuff. Like it again, like I definitely think it just means that they had to change their strategy around in order to be able to stay relevant. And I think if they had continued in the direction that they were going, the high boy at Microsoft would have cut their asses out. Seriously.
Yeah.
If you're not making the money, you see the way Microsoft cuts people. They don't care. So if you're not making money, they'll just cut you right off.
Yeah, one thing I was going to bring this up as a separate kind of story, but I'll meld it into this one because it's still relevant. To your point, Avowed came out. It ain't doing so well, like the Steam numbers. And Brian, I'm already looking for you so we can see what it's currently at right now. Last time I checked, it was like the peak was 25,000, right? Which is better than the 15,000 that people first reported. And what my immediate thought was when I saw that, beyond the fact that, the stupid art director was saying all that nonsense that obviously pissed people off, is because why would you buy this game when you could play it on Game Pass? Right?
Did it get received well critically?
Critically, yeah. It's a critical darling. They love the game, obviously. But obviously, that didn't help out Dragon Age, for example. I don't know.
It good reviews, did it?
It got pretty good reviews. Not the most glowing reviews, but it got generally favorable reviews. And so did Avowed. Pretty good review. I think that one scored a little better than Dragon Age. You could check me on that. But yeah, it's not doing so hot. And I suspect it's because, again, why pay? And I believe this is a $70 game. Why pay $70? We could get it on Xbox, right? So that's to the point. People have often kind of accused Xbox of training their fan base to not buy games. I don't know if I fully buy into that, but I also understand why people would say that. I just like the notion that people are just so gullible sheep that'll just go along with it. But maybe the crazy hardcore Xbox guys. But then again, if you're a crazy hardcore Xbox guy, why would you want that if you've been screaming about losing exclusives? You know, like why wouldn't you buy shit? Like for real. But go ahead, Brian. What are the numbers?
Well, okay. Let's do the numbers first.
Yeah.
So, when did Avowed come out?
Like last week, I believe. Like we could
It
look
was
that
last
up.
week.
Yeah.
18th, so 3 days ago.
Yeah.
Okay. What I tend to notice is about these Steam numbers is it only really makes sense to count after the first weekend.
Okay.
Because even with Dragon Age, it didn't do so well initially, but over the weekend, the numbers went up by like 50% or so. So, again, that tends to be what I've noticed, and we're still not over the first weekend yet. But even then, the peak is 17,500, and right now there's 13,500 players on Steam.
And this is a game that would be generally good for PC. I mean, it is Obsidian.
Somebody brought up that, and Brian, you can look this up too. Skyrim, right? Somebody did a comparison. You know, they looked it up at the same time. Skyrim had more concurrent players. Skyrim, 14-year-old game. So yeah, if you look it up, go ahead, Manny.
Oh no, mine is not unrelated to anything.
But yeah, go ahead, Brian. If I know you want to give your thoughts too.
In terms of right now, no, it does not. Skyrim peaked out today at 2,500. Wait, this is Skyrim OG, not Skyrim.
OG. Yeah, look at the remaster. Yeah.
All right, give me a second.
Yeah, because somebody pointed out it's like it had like 44,000 at one point. Like the day they decided, because obviously you could kind of parse that how you want. But regardless, the point stands. Why buy a game when you can just play it on Xbox? What's up, Rich?
And for now, Avowed is purely locked to Xbox and PC, right? It's not launched on the PlayStation, right?
No, not yet.
Okay. So they pretty much pulled Indiana Jones, where they're going to do it later.
Yeah,
they haven't said it yet.
Well, look at the bright side, Tony. It's doing better than Suicide Squad.
Yes, certainly. Yeah. So, Rich, what are your thoughts on this, man? Where Phil Spencer is basically saying, we're not going to bother trying to bring those guys over anymore.
Well, I think the people that are angry, I have to question, where have they been for the last several years? And more recently, where were they last month? Because like you said, Tony, during the developer direct, they flat out told us Doom is coming to PlayStation 5 day one. Same thing with the Ninja Gaiden 4 game that they announced. So I don't know why people would be surprised. They've been telling you this for the longest time. These games are coming over to the other consoles. So I don't understand why anybody would be angry at this point.
David said the case by case basis thing years ago,
Mm-hmm.
and then all of a sudden, Hi-Fi Rush decides to jump over, and then a couple of and what was it? Sea of Thieves and the Honey I Shrunk the Kids game. I'm losing.
Grounded.
Can't remember.
Grounded. Oh yeah, Grounded.
And so those three games, all those games came over. Granted, those were smaller titles, and those aren't those cornerstone Xbox titles, right? Those are the games that you don't fully think about, when you think about Xbox titles, right? Even though Sea of Thieves is like their baby, but anyway, none of the big Xbox people are going to lose their mind over that. But the Forza, on the other hand,
because it's one of the three pillars. It's one of the three pillars, right? We always said Xbox only has three franchises: Halo, Gears, and Forza. One of the one that was the most likely to come first came first. Forza. Right. Exactly. Now it's just it's not a question of will they bring Halo or in Gears. It's a question of when it's going to happen. Yeah. And I'll tell you this right now. I said this before and I'll say it again. When that happens, Twitter's going to be free entertainment. Stay tuned.
We also predicted Forza too. We said out of any of the games that would be one of the ones that would come over early on, it wouldn't be a Halo, it wouldn't be a Gears of War. but it probably would be a Forza.
Yeah, that's the first one. Real quick, J Shep, because I want to get to this other point too about this topic. J Shep says, I think because content creators on YouTube seem to tell people lies. What are you referring to? I'm not sure, but so while he answered that, I don't like promoting this guy, but I have to because listen. For example, I don't like Jason Schreier. I think he's a worm. I think he's scum. And I'll say it, he blocked me. I don't give a fuck. He's not even on Twitter. Fuck that guy. I don't care. Fuck Jason Schreier. I will gladly say that. I don't care. But I will admit he's a good reporter, right? So I'll give people their due. So in that vein, someone who I don't think that negatively of, but I still don't really care for, Mr. Colin Moriarty. So on his show, Last Stand Media, he had, it was a 24-minute video, but it's worth watching, detailing the entire fall of Xbox and how we got here. And the way he framed it, I didn't think about it, where he kind of framed it as like, Icarus, the Icarus story, flew too close to the sun, right? It's like, before you knew it, it's like, oh shit, how did we end up here? Basically, because we had the start of this whole push towards becoming third party when Xbox started putting their shit on PC. But still, you could only play Xbox games on Xbox, right? And then Microsoft decided, hey, we're having a little bit of a problem getting more studios here. Let's start buying a bunch of shit. They started going crazy, not really thinking about the consequences of buying too much stuff. So they bought fucking Activision, and without really realizing, like, oh shit, we can't take Call of Duty away from PlayStation. I guess we got to publish this game. Okay, I guess we got to publish everything now. So it's kind of interesting how they got themselves stuck in this situation without thinking it through. They're just like, buy everything, buy everything, buy everything. It's like, oh crap, how did we end up here? It's very interesting. But like, yeah, go ahead.
No, I mean, to be honest, when they first bought the Activision, and we thought they were just going to close the door on Call of Duty.
They probably would have if the FTC didn't step in. Because that's something I said at the time, and I still maintain. I think it would have been smarter for Xbox to just hold all that shit. Like, nope, you want to play Call of Duty, you got to buy an Xbox. That's what I think they should have done. But obviously, the FTC had, a different thing they wanted to do. So now they kind of like, their plans just kind of came they unraveled. Not to be confused with the game Unraveled.
I think the thing about it is that when it became like they bought, what was it? They bought Bethesda and ZeniMax, right?
Yeah.
Then so closely after they got Activision.
Yeah.
And I think that is probably what set off them. Well, then them and a couple of other things, Sony getting all piffy that they're gonna take away our precious, they're gonna take it away because they make so much money off of it. No, I think it's that really set them off. It started looking like they were, Pac-Manning and gobbling up the industry.
Yeah. Cicero said he disagrees with making Call of Duty Xbox only. I know, again, that's just my opinion, but I still maintain that, Yeah,
I think the smartest thing I agree with Tony. I think the smartest thing they would have done, and if they didn't have such a big target on their head, to lock that down. Just lock it to PC and Xbox, because that is where the initial fan base for Xbox was. That's all that Call of Duty. It's a lot of the shooter games, and they have the epitome of shooters on their console. And I think that would have definitely, because it's all about perception, right? PlayStation for years was doing this, and before them, Microsoft was doing this, where they had those exclusive deals, where essentially they're pretty much siphoning in money to essentially pay for the forward-facing advertisement, where it would always say Xbox only, Xbox after the trailer, even though it was available on everything. And we even saw it at the time where people would say, you go to a game store and they're like, man, I wish Call of Duty was on a PlayStation. It is. It's on everything. You can play it. But, normie person's not going to know that.
Exactly.
They know what the commercial tells them.
Yeah. Again, if any franchise, this isn't even a hypothetical, man. I'm gonna lay something down, tying it up. Remember a couple of weeks ago we had that PlayStation outage, right? It made a lot of people, think about the 2011 outage. What happened during that time? A lot of PlayStation guys who needed that crack, who needed that Call of Duty, bought an Xbox. Call of Duty fans are rabid dudes. You don't think if any franchise is going to make people ditch a PlayStation to get an Xbox, it would be Call of Duty. And that's why I still maintain, if Xbox didn't have to deal with the FTC, they would have said, nope, this shit is ours. You got to buy an Xbox. And if I was in charge of Xbox, that's exactly what I would have done. I'm like, nope, you don't play Call of Duty, you buy our fucking box. But
in other words, we've seen this shift happen before from 360 to PlayStation. We've seen the shift. And then you notice that the one that has the bigger, the perception that this is the console to play this game, you see the shift over because, oh, hey, man, I want to play with my friends. All right, let's just play on this other console. All right, now it's here. We're playing it there. So if again, like what Sony said, if they didn't have all this stuff, the eyes all on them, they probably would have just said, shut the door and said, no, this is what's happening.
Yeah, it just would have made more sense.
It's no different. It's no different than granted, the big exclusive Microsoft has is their bank account, right?
Yeah, yep, money.
But Sony was still, people forget that Sony was paying Activision money for exclusivity rights, advertising exclusivity rights,
the marketing
like
rights,
Microsoft was doing before them. So it's not. It's just all about that perception. So.
Yeah. Oh, real quick, going back to what Jay Shep was referring to, about influencers lying. He basically saying that a lot of the hardcore Xbox guys are surprised by this because I guess he's saying that some YouTubers were saying no, the games are never going to go to PlayStation. Possible, possible. I don't know.
I wouldn't exactly call it lying. I think people conflate opinion with fact.
That's also true. Yeah.
Think,
just because you're stating your opinion doesn't mean you're lying. Lying is a deliberate act. Knowing I know this is wrong, but I'm going to say otherwise. That's lying. But if you're stating an opinion and your opinion just so happens to be wrong, that's not lying.
That's not lying. I think they genuinely believed that these things weren't going to happen.
Yeah. That's like, okay, so by that token, I'm a liar because Xbox decided to put Call of Duty on PlayStation, keep it on PlayStation. I'm a liar because I said they should have locked it down. It doesn't work like that. Just because you express an opinion that's wrong doesn't mean you're lying. Go ahead, Carlos. Yeah.
I was like, I'm not lying. I'm just really misinformed.
Yeah. All right, man. Anything else?
Why you lying, Tony?
Why you lying? Why you lying?
Why you fuck you lying?
Yeah, to quote Hip Hop Gamer, why you lying? Why you lying? Speaking of Hip Hop Gamer, that's another guy we had to get back on the show.
You see what he did recently?
What did he do?
He's interviewing Anthony Mackie.
Oh yeah, that was good. Yeah. But shout out to I'm telling you, Hip Hop Gamer's the fucking hardest working man in the industry. Man. Yeah. Brian, you gonna say something?
Yeah, just the numbers.
Yeah, the numbers. Let's go. See, we don't need Chris just to get numbers around Throwdown.
All right. Yeah. So I was looking at the OG Skyrim, but apparently it's the special edition, not the anniversary edition. It's so I don't know how many different editions there are on Steam, but yeah. Okay, so Skyrim Special Edition topped out at just under 70,000 players 8.5 years ago.
Fuck.
And currently, there are 24,000 players playing it.
Wow, more than Avowed.
I'm just more.
I want people to understand
that.
I want people to understand that a remake, remaster, whatever you want to call it, of a 14-year-old game is currently doing better than a current game. But like Brian, we'll revisit this, I guess, Monday or Thursday. When do you think we should revisit the numbers? What do you think they'll be more accurate for Avowed?
Thursday. I think Thursday should be fine.
Yeah. And I'm glad you bring up that point. Accountability throwdown, because obviously every YouTuber's jumping on this shit, which I get. Obviously, it's big salaciousness. Oh, Xbox game failing. But let's wait until we get the final count for like a week. Go ahead, Brian.
It's just the sheer attachment rate. I've never seen a game get this attached. Again, it's about not even half, like less than half, so about 40%. So it's had a roughly 60% drop off in 8.5 years. What other single player game has?
Whoa! Say that again.
Roughly, again, just quick maths, around 60% drop off in 8.5 years.
Wow.
I know. I've never heard any game have attachment that high.
Most games have that in the first week.
In the first week,
you're
right. Yeah,
in the first day.
In the first day.
I mean, it's one of those things that just sort of like that game just and the Grand Theft Auto franchise. It's just those things that just become so like evergreen, right?
Yeah,
where they just continue
amazing.
To revitalize. It's amazing. Like, and that game is not the most advanced game out there right now. Right? I mean, granted, it was when it originally released, but
11 years ago.
Yeah, but
no, more than that.
Yeah, it was 14 years ago. But Brian, I don't know if you saw some of these videos, and Manny, you'll enjoy this too. Somebody was doing side-by-side comparisons of the Skyrim and Avowed, and Skyrim had more advanced physics than Avowed in some cases.
I mean,
Question.
They were talking about the water thing.
The remaster or not? Is that the question?
No. Question is, can you cut the watermelons?
I don't know if you can.
It doesn't matter.
Can you blow up the tires?
Yeah, you know.
Carlos got it.
Yep, there you go. Yeah. Well, the reason because I never played Skyrim, like, you probably could cut watermelons in that fucking game. You could do anything in that. By the way, real quick,
that game also had like a huge memory leak issue for older things because it was saving the locations of every single item in the world.
Yeah, that's a problem with Bethesda games. Okay, Jay Step goes, I say lying because many of those guys came out after the fact and said they knew this was going to happen, but that could be a lie too. Yeah, if they said, if there's video proof that they said this will never come to PlayStation, and they said, "Oh, I knew it was going to happen," that's a fucking lie. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's definitely a lie.
That's an absolute lie. But if there was an in between where you're like, "Oh, hold on a second," because remember, you got to give people grace too. I don't like this whole thing of like, "Oh, look what you said 8 years ago." Yeah, it was fucking 8 years ago. I'm allowed to change my fucking mind when I have new information, bro.
Exactly.
But if you said, go ahead.
Or if they said like, they said the thing like, "Oh man, they're never gonna come," and then they said like, "Man, I was so wrong about this, man. I totally thought that they were just gonna keep everything over there and they weren't gonna bring everything over." But now, at least that's accountability where they admitted that they were wrong with their assessment of it.
Yeah. Yeah, and I got to give because some of the guys in the Discord are throwing him under the bus. Our boy Paris, he flat out said, "Yeah, I was wrong." He said it. I don't know what more you want for him to say, but he was like, because he said Call of Duty wasn't going to come. Well, he said something about like whatever wasn't going to come to PlayStation, and it did come to PlayStation. I don't think it was Call of Duty, but he said I was wrong. He said it, so I'm like, I don't know what else you want.
Yeah, I mean, he has his. This is the thing. Like, you can unless you have hard facts, unless you know for sure. That like I still think that somebody being able to say, "Hey, listen, man, I just totally what was it? What's the big one for us, right?"
Well, the big one for me is the Nintendo Switch.
Chris and Tony, dead set saying that thing was going to be the way, and it wasn't going to do it. No, it did it. And
dead fucking wrong.
Yeah. And the nail in the coffin is it's still fucking doing good.
It's still doing good. And that actually a little bit of a segue that I wanted to say. Remember, this is why I don't like this whole, gotcha, because you don't look at the shit between. If at the beginning of the year, I think it was with you, Carlos. I was very adamant. I was like, the Nintendo Switch will never outsell the PS2, right? You know, it was you, and I said it was never.
No.
Yeah.
Oh, it was the release date. That was
Yeah.
me.
I was very adamant. I was like, it's never gonna outsell it because I was under the assumption Switch 2 is coming in March, right? When the situation changed, I'm like, oh shit, maybe it could outsell PS2, but somebody could easily go, Tony, look what you said in January. Look what happened now. You were wrong, you know? But it's like, did you not see what I said in between that motherfucker? You know, but so that's why I don't like the whole gotcha game shit. Oh, look what you said 10 years ago. Hold on. And real quick, Carlos, before you go, now I'm on a rant right now. This happened to me a few years ago, bro. I remember I was on one of those fucking, okay, I probably shouldn't have been on one of these fucking podcasts, but I did anyway. One of those Sony Pony podcasts, and they tried to get me because I said that, you know, if you're a game reviewer and you got a bunch of games to review, you don't necessarily have time to beat games. If you play enough of a game to do an accurate review, that's all you need. Somebody pulled up a fucking article I had written from Cool Stuff the blog in 2010 where I said you need to finish your games to review them. Oh, what changed? I'm like, 8 fucking years changed, bro. I'm in the fucking industry now. You're seriously gonna quote me when I was a fucking nobody, when I know what the fuck I was talking about, to say, oh, you got me? That's why I can't stand that type of shit. You know? Motherfuckers are gonna change your opinion based on new shit. So you're going to tell me that a guy who's just looking from the outside in is more accurate than a motherfucker that makes a living off this shit, you know? That's why I'm going to stop right now because I'm going to go off, but I'm not a fan of that type of stuff. Oh, you started those 8 years ago, you know? Fucking assholes. Go ahead.
I mean, we, you know, Cool Stuff the blog.
They pulled that shit up, Manny. You know, can you believe that shit? And this is a phrase I got from Paris, and it's perfect. Dumpster divers, bro. They looking through the garbage. Ooh, to see what we can find. You know,
man. I mean, you know, Cool Stuff is still out there. You guys can still read it. I mean, one thing that's cool about it is that you get a record of some of our original reviews and all that stuff. I think at one point, you know, you were taking some of the stuff and from STFU and Play and putting them on there too. So it's a fun little time to have. But yeah, like I think
Reggie, I know you enjoyed that. You know,
I think the one thing about it is it's like, yeah, like I wish that wasn't the case, that a reviewer couldn't finish a game, but knowing you and the things that you've done with, and then some of the I didn't nearly do as many reviews as you did.
Yeah.
But understanding the sheer amount of things that you needed to do within that time. Yeah.
I've been a game reviewer now for it's going to be almost 15 years if you count the Cool Stuff days, right? There has never been a single instance of a game that I reviewed where I finished it after the fact, where I'm like, oh, fuck, I was wrong. It hasn't happened. If you play 30 hours of a game, you know what's up, you know? And also the way I review shit, I'm not going to tell you about and I'm not going to discuss the ending of the game. Are you fucking crazy? I'm not going to spoil shit, you know? So anyway, going back to the main topic, it's like, you know, things are changing, so don't just attack people because of opinions they had on Xbox, when obviously the company's changing shit every month, it seems. Everybody's going to be wrong. You know? Everybody, because Xbox is just all over the place, you know?
Yeah.
Real quick, actually, Carlos, you said you want to say something real quick?
I'm trying to remember what it was. Oh yeah, I had a question about
why is it?
Why is it? What was Paris getting flack for?
Oh, because again, I'm forgetting the specific. J-Shep, you could, because J-Shep, he doesn't let Paris slip.
No, because I have a theory though.
Because a bunch of dudes were pulling up quote unquote receipts of Paris saying something about Xbox would never do X like 2 or 3 years ago during the whole acquisition thing, and then it ended up happening, and then Paris put out a video saying, oh yeah, I was fucking wrong. But I'm like, but he said he's wrong. What's the problem?
But
But
it doesn't. It doesn't matter.
I know it doesn't matter
to
I know it doesn't matter to the internet.
I think the thing that happens from prominence.
Yeah.
Where, in other words, people think that just because you have a certain position that your opinions may have more fact to them than, let's say, other people.
Yeah. I think you're right.
I think
yeah.
I think that's what I think that's what it really is. I think it's like, just because he is who he is, now it's like, oh no, he said this is a fact. This is never going to happen. It's like, no, he's still, even though he didn't say this is my opinion, that doesn't, that it's still his opinion. Unless he could say that he was in the room, he's talked to Phil Spencer, and Phil Spencer's standing next to him and saying, yo, this is never going to happen. And they're both saying it at the same time.
Yeah, but you're right, because obviously this dude's hosted Xbox show, so there's the assumption that he talks to Phil Spencer all the time.
Yeah, he's the Xbox guy. He has a greater connection to the whole Xbox brand. No, he's just because you host something doesn't mean you have a really connection.
Yeah,
unless he actually works with them,
which he doesn't.
The thing with Paris is he's gonna get hate because he's quote unquote a Microsoft Xbox guy. So it's just part of the whole console war stuff. Going back to one thing that Tony mentioned, I'm gonna disagree to an extent. With being wrong 8 years ago, or being misinformed 8 years ago, or anything like that, and having that come back to bite you. It really depends on how much you boast what you preach.
Yeah.
If you're one of those people that is gonna tell you, fucking what's it called? GTA 5 is going to be on the fucking Switch, you dumbass, and I'm gonna cancel you for that. I'm sorry. It doesn't matter if it's 8 years from now or 10 years from now. I'm gonna fucking fight back at you because you deserve it. So it really depends. If you're just someone that's just saying, I think it's gonna do this, or it's possible that it's gonna do this, or I predict that it's gonna do this, and you're wrong, that's okay. But if you're someone that's militant in the way that you preach, I'm sorry, you have it coming. I don't care.
Yeah, I agree with that. Like, especially these insiders, right, Carlos? Those guys, I think they get appropriate amount of flack because they are there saying this is gonna happen.
And they talk down on the audience.
Yes, they talk down on people. They talk shit. That's a different story. Paris always says, I think. He always says that. And I do as well. I think. These guys are saying this will happen, And also, I'm sorry if you're an insider. If your whole existence is on you getting scoops and you're wrong all the time, why the fuck should we listen to you? But if you're just giving opinions and you're, but if you're just an opinion guy, nobody, obviously you're going to get flack, but it's the different thing. It's like, okay, opinion wrong, whatever, Yeah,
if you, because nobody, here's the thing, like the thing about it is, notice that they call themselves insiders, but they never call themselves speculators, which is a lot of what they are.
Yeah.
They're speculating.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. All right. That conversation went in a way different direction, but I like the conversation, so it's good.
Yeah, that was good.
Otaku man, what's going on, brother?
What up?
All right, let's move on, because unless anybody wants to chime in one last thing, we still got one more Xbox story to talk about. Let's say one last thing on Avowed. I don't know what that game is. I legitimately do not know what that game is. I call it. I hear the name. I hear the name, and I'm like, there's no image that gets conjured up with that game. Yeah. And I think, to be honest, I think that might be the thing. Yeah, I mean, it just seems like it's like Fortnite meets Skyrim, I don't know. I think there's anything like there's. Like even now, like I couldn't tell you what Avowed looks like. I just know it's a name and I know what the cover looks like, but I don't know what that game looks like. And I don't ever remember if I've ever seen any trailers of it, which I probably have. I don't remember any of those trailers. I mean, that happens to me with some games, in one year out the other, you know?
And 1 year out the other, which means I'm thinking, despite the critical reception, which obviously critics are going to review pretty much everything that they're given by a studio, I don't think that Avowed, in general, it makes it. What's happening now I think is indicative of whatever that game is. I don't think it's enough to. I don't think it's capturing people because I don't think it's doing anything. I don't think it's just flowing, and people are just like, well, I don't know what that is. Whatever. I don't think it's impressed anybody enough for people to buy it.
Yeah, I agree. Jay Shep goes, I think I saw an article that said they changed the original graphics to more cartoony. Look, I'm not surprised by that. By the way, a quick little aside, and forgive me if I said this on the show before, because this was kind of recent. I went to this like kind of gaming bar / hangout place called OSNYC in Chinatown. And they have PlayStations everywhere, and we were just me, Jeffrey, and Jordan, we're playing a bunch of games, and I noticed that like half of them, all their menus look like Fortnite, all of them, So it's like that shit's like, if you ever seen Fortnite, if you ever go to that start screen, that shit, Fall Guys, all these games have the same look, So it's very obvious that like visually, Fortnite has penetrated shit. I mean, look at fucking Dragon Age, bro. Carlos thought it was a Fortnite type of game just because of the visuals. So yeah, J-Shep, I'm not surprised by that. Where they may have been like, hey, let's make it look more like this.
It's like cartoonish, colorful kind of.
Yeah. Do you guys know what I'm talking about when it comes to the UI and shit? It's like the characters in the middle. Like, there's a bunch of shit you can select. There's a bunch of microtransaction shit. There's a busy stuff.
I mean, to be honest, I'm going to tell you this: a lot of companies go to the same people to do their UI design.
Why does that surprise me?
In general, like there's a few studios, like a lot of studios don't actually do their own UI design, at least their main menu and UI design internally. So that's where you sort of get these situations. Well, it's because also a lot of people don't like to do UI design, but that's also the hardest role to find in the game industry. That's a little bit inside baseball for you guys. So, and so they'll go to an external studio, and they'll be like, okay, and that studio will be like, okay, judging by the type of game that you're creating, this is the type of UI that'll work for you.
Yeah. So that's why that explains a lot. Yeah.
And they do all kinds of stuff, like they'll do play tests of these sorts of UIs with people to try to in other words get a gauge of it. So there's a fair amount of familiarity that is inserted into sort of these things, and that's why you're sort of seeing a flattening out of like at least a main menu and UI design and communicating of colors and certain things, because these are things that people are familiar. That's why the what was it, the purple is the rarity item. It's those same sorts of things. It's all runs on the same stuff.
I should note that this is for Western games. Japanese games don't seem to have this issue.
No, Japanese games are not. They're not, like, you look at any of those Persona menus, like they're just losing their mind. I mean, granted, they're a little busy, like at times, but they're interesting. They're interesting and fun to look at. They're just as cool to look at as the actual game is. Fun side fact on the Persona games: those UIs are actually a different game, a different program.
Okay,
which is nuts. It's two programs running simultaneously. When you play your game, it's actually different than the UI, and the UI is its own sort of program within the game. It's not in the same game, or it's in the same thing. So it's almost like it pauses the actual game and then it runs a UI program on top of that. It's really interesting way to think about UI design. Siki knows knows a lot about that stuff though.
Yeah. All right, let's move on here. Again, another Xbox story. This one's about our favorite subject, AI. I wonder what Brett would say if he was here, because he's obviously the big proponent for AI. I wonder what you have to say about this shit, So I'll just read this. This is from Games Radar. Xbox has unveiled its generative AI project Muse, a quote, generative AI model of a video game that can generate game visuals, controller actions, and both, end quote. The publisher is not being specific about what this model's exact uses are, but has outlined some potential applications in its announcement. One of those proposed uses is game preservation. So this is what Xbox had to say. Today, countless classic games tied to aging hardware are no longer playable by most people. Thanks to this breakthrough, we are exploring the potential for Muse to take older back catalog games from our studios and optimize them for any device. We believe this could radically change how we preserve and experience classic games in the future and make them accessible to more players. And here's a quote from our boy, Mr. Phil Spencer. One of the things that we care a lot about at Xbox is game preservation. I think an opportunity to have models learn about older games that were maybe tied to unique pieces of hardware, where that engine on that hardware, time will erode the amount of hardware that's out there that can actually play the game. I don't know about all this, bro, because they don't really go into the specifics. Yeah.
The thing is, they say potentially control.
Potential, yeah.
So they're looking to essentially train an AI model to essentially look at a whole game and essentially recreate it.
Yeah,
that's what they're looking.
And apparently, they did it with a bleeding edge, a game that was a big hit, obviously.
Well, I mean, to be honest, I would have been on Ninja Theory. I would have been like, I wish Ninja Theory had the ability to say "fuck no."
Yeah, the one L from Ninja Theory. You know, Brooklyn Bear, what's going on, brother? He goes, that generative AI still ain't gonna fix a Starfield.
No, the generative AI. Here's the thing: the generative AI, like the one thing, a lot of people think that AI is the magic box, right? And it's not. There's a lot of shit that goes into doing AI. Nobody ever talks about the memory usage or the amount of training that you need to do, and even the training data the training data that goes behind the scene takes up a lot of space. I think I said this before on our private chat. The only way I can actually see anything like this working is if it was running through a server, if they're feeding it to you, because I don't think it'll run on any console.
Yeah, no, that's probably what it is.
Especially if you see how much there's a set graphics cards that can specifically run any sort of AI models that you have out there, and they're incredibly intensive. So, and as far as games, it's like, to me, it's like, I think one of in that Games Radar interview, or maybe it was another one, they said it's like replacing it's like taking not even bothering to restore the Mona Lisa. It's just pulling the Mona Lisa off the wall and then just putting up a copy machine copy, a color copy of the Mona Lisa on the wall, and saying, "Yep, that's the Mona Lisa. Looks exactly like it."
So that actually leads to the other part here, because obviously some people are like, okay, bro. So this is what a game historian said. I actually do think an AI model could observe and replicate game logic, and that might be useful. That might be a useful tool for development. But this is like saying a photocopy of a painting is preservation. It's misleading and an insult to the thankless work we archivists do. I'm offended and sickened by this. Tell me how you really feel. And I love this quote. This is from another, historian. Generative AI video is a great way to preserve video games in the same sense that mirages are a great source of water. I love that quote.
The thing about it, it's like, okay, the way the way I see this sort of working is if you're, if it's training itself on the images of the game, it's hit every single portion of the game. So it's almost like a weird sort of full motion video game, where in other words, because it already knows how all this environment is built, it essentially knows, okay, this is the way this looks from this angle. So it's not really running any sort of 3D or any sort of real logic. So it's like if you took Dragon's Lair, if you had the game Dragon's Lair, right, and that's a full motion video, but your game is only locked, that game is locked because the artist couldn't draw every single possible scenario that you could do it. So now, since you've had this thing sort of trained on something, it can sort of recreate it because it already knows what these things in this environment sort of look like. Is that really game preservation?
I don't think so. Yeah, like you said, it's like a photocopy of the Mona Lisa.
Shit. This is a tough question, man, because I understand, like, you guys are making great points. The thing with, for example, comparing video games to just straight up art like a Mona Lisa or Sistine Chapel or something is because those are 100% physical physical art, and for video games it's like there's really no other way to enjoy them. Mona Lisa, you can go to the Louvre every time you want to want to go see it, but video games, if you want to enjoy Ocarina of Time or Metal Gear Solid 4, there's really no other way other than to try to get a PlayStation 3 and a copy of Metal Gear 4.
There is another way, and it involves hiring people who know something about this stuff in order to deconstruct and port the game to other consoles.
Well, that would be the ideal way. Yeah,
that is the ideal way to do these things. But obviously, this is a lazy solution because they don't want to invest in any of their titles.
Oh yeah, it'll be
hey,
too
look,
expensive.
you just trained an AI model on your game, okay, and then we got it to work in some goofball way on here.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. To me, it's not. That's not officially preservation. Preserving is what Blue Point did with the Shadow of the Colossus. Both versions of it, right? In other words, okay, what they did is the original game is, and this is for Demon Souls as well. The original game is running underneath the surface, and they have a renderer on top of it, a renderer engine on top of it. So it still runs the same way, but it's got a whole new nice veneer on it. Or if you get the original running on a modern console, that's true preservation because you're still preserving what the original game was, not just this sort of like trained sort of, thing. And we know, obviously with time, and we've seen it, you see it with our AI generated Phil Spencer that we have as our thing there. It's getting pretty good. He still looks a little weird. There's some goofy shit going on around in the background, but that legitimately looks like a Phil Spencer standing in front of an arcade machine.
Yeah, if you don't scrutinize it, if you just look at it for a couple of seconds, like, oh, Phil Spencer, and then move on. I mean, most people.
Maybe that's the thing. Maybe that's what they're hoping for, where people don't scrutinize it. Hey, every so often the AI model doesn't know how to draw some hands. It's good enough.
I have a question for you guys.
Yo, what up?
What's the difference between this and the remastering engine?
Well, according to hip hop, if you put the game inside of the game, it's kind of like temporal injection, right? Remember when that was the big hotness, where you could essentially hijack a signal, in a game, right? So it senses the game that you get in there, and then what it does is it runs it through there, and it fixes it all up for you. That's what the remastering engine for.
But in theory, it's kind of, it's kind of the same similar.
Thing.
Yeah.
It's kind of the same idea, where in other words, as opposed to it just being the game that you tossed in there and it, runs an update or something like that to essentially replace all the textures and do all kinds of other fun stuff. It's essentially, the idea is that it essentially throws this veneer of the game, this representation of the game at you.
Yeah,
I
don't understand why they use Bleeding Edge of all games.
Bleeding Edge is well, number one, it's nobody cares about that game, and it's easy to do, right?
Yeah,
you could pretty much run every single model, every single thing through the engine. Then you can run it through, to essentially all learn through the game.
Yeah, and apparently this thing did a decent job of replicating the game.
I mean, it's also a stylized game. See, that's where I can see AI being used to essentially, kind of like the way it was used in Spider-Verse, right? The Spider-Verse film. There was some AI used in that thing, but it was to get a specific styling on top of the work that they were doing. So if you had your game, let's say for the sake of conversation, we've trained we trained all of our models have all been trained on this specific style. Let's say it's a painterly style, and then our game is not really hitting that, and you essentially run that on top of whatever it's essentially it's a final rendering scale on your game to get it to that final level. That's one thing I can see. If you wanted to do something like that with AI, I think that could work. But I don't know. Again, this is all new tech, but I don't think that this sort of like veneer game, classical game is going to be something that'll legitimately really work. It's kind of like that parlor trick that people were posting around not long ago, where they made it was like Grand Theft Auto but real, where essentially they throw the footage of Grand Theft Auto through an AI thing that does an AI model that does hyper realistic stuff, and it made the game look all realistic, but it still was weird. Like some of the walls and stuff like that were all like kind of distorted because it wasn't trained enough on it.
Yeah. Throw that PSSR on top of there. There you go.
PSSR. I mean, I don't know how those exactly, because I know how those other models work, right? Where in other words, it's the models that are trained on different people's styles and stuff like that. You feed enough of a person's image and it's able to essentially overlap it onto something else. But I don't exactly know how DLSS and PSER sort of AI upscaling sort of works. So is it just look at it and be like, okay, I know every single time I see an edge, I'll flatten it out,
Yeah, I don't know. All right. Anything else you guys want to say about this before we move on?
Leave it to Microsoft to essentially introduce the AI solution to video games now.
I mean, they're obsessed with this stuff. They spent a lot of money on it,
Guess they got to cut some costs somewhere, right?
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So this next story, this one is fucking insane. Marvel Rivals, easily the most popular, successful game of like the year so far. Just had its entire American studio closed, the whole thing, all the staff gone.
The one question
yeah.
I have about this situation is this political?
We don't know.
Because
that's what people are speculating. But NetEase came out; they made their statement. They didn't mention anything about tariffs. If that's what you're referring to.
I mean, to be honest, like they probably wouldn't say anything like that. But that definitely sounds like some sort of cutting measure to me.
Yeah, I mean, they claim
how many people.
Yeah,
how many people was the studio? Was it like 100 people or something like that?
I have no idea.
6.
They don't even. Was that
6 people?
6.
Oh,
yep.
Shit.
6 people. All right, so
that's what I heard.
Okay, so because as I remember, Marvel Rivals is a totally Chinese developed game.
Yeah, it is.
So we know that one guy was a director because they essentially took his in the articles they sort of took his LinkedIn outro thing. And so what were those guys?
What
were those guys, and why couldn't they keep them around?
Yeah, well, let's read this from IGN, and we'll figure it out. Marvel Rivals developer NetEase has confirmed cuts with Seattle-based design team for organizational reasons. Overnight, Marvel Rivals game director Thaddeus Thasser took to LinkedIn to announce that he and his team were laid off. So this is the game director. This is such a weird industry. My stellar, talented team just helped deliver an incredibly successful new franchise, Marvel Rivals for NetEase Games, and we were just laid off. Oh, well, times are tough all over. Let's find these incredible people new jobs because we all need to eat, right? Wild, bro. The video game development community reacted with a mix of shock and anger to the cuts, given Marvel Rivals' explosive success. The free-to-play hero shooter has seen over 20 million downloads since launch in December and huge peak concurrent player base on Steam. Brian, if you could pull those numbers up, I'd be very interested in that. According to Sasser's LinkedIn profile, his team focused on game and development work for Marvel Rivals, offering guidance, strategy, and design direction over the last couple of years. NetEase issued IGN a statement confirming the layoffs, but failed to specify how many people were cut. So this is what NetEase said. We recently made the difficult decision to adjust Marvel Rivals' development team structure for organizational reasons and to optimize development efficiency for the game. This resulted in a reduction of a design team based in Seattle that is part of a larger global design function in support of Marvel Rivals. We appreciate the hard work and dedication of those affected, and we will be treating them confidentially and respectfully with recognition for their individual contributions. But NetEase was keen to stress that the layoffs won't impact support for Marvel Rivals, whose primary development team is based in China. Okay, so the main guys are still based over there. We want to reassure our fan base that the core development team for Marvel Rivals, which continues to be led by lead producer, and forgive me if I get these names wrong, because I'm going to get them wrong, Wei Kong Wu, and game creative director Guangjin Chen in China. I don't know the name, but it's fucking Guangzhou, China, remains fully committed to developing an exceptional experience. We are investing more, not less, into the evolution of growth of this game. We are excited to deliver new superhero characters, blah, 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 blah. All right, so the main guys that developed the game in China are still there. And I guess these creative dudes in Seattle just laid off, they said, because they're restructuring shit.
It's an interesting one. Like, I'm wondering what like, again, Brian says there were 6 people there. So what was it that they were doing over there? Was it, at least from the way they said, the way, that statement makes it sound.
It says that they were a design team,
They were a design team.
Yeah.
So my guess
of
is,
a design team.
it was a design team. I think they probably just saw it. They saw it that they got everything out of these guys.
Yeah, that's what I think too.
Cut them. I think it's like it sucks to say, but they pretty much got everything that they could have got. They got out of these guys, and they're like, okay, we feel like we can make that on our own now. We don't need you guys.
Yeah, because we've seen this many times
what it
too.
Sounds like.
Yeah, no, and we've seen this many times too. Where a game, obviously, this game came out a while ago, but usually when a game ends development, there's a bunch of layoffs. That always happens. So I think you're probably right. Where it's just like, we got what we needed out of these guys. We don't need them. They're not core. Let's just get rid of them. I think that's probably what happened.
Even if they might have been the chief, like they might have been the chief early, like in other words, those first X amount of characters, they sort of like maybe oversaw a lot of the stuff that went into those characters. But I'm like, I think that maybe they just saw, and I would say this, and it's kind of stinky, but it is a Chinese studio, and they're not going to have a lot of loyalty to somebody that's not in China.
Yeah, I agree.
Especially if their main team is all out in China, and I don't think they're going to be moving these guys. They would have moved these guys over. I think they just like, okay, we know how to make one of these games. We do it. All right, we don't need you guys. Let's get out.
Yeah, I think that's what happened. I think that's what happened, and I'm very perplexed that no one's brought that up because everybody's just going through the wildest fucking speculations without going for the obvious. What you just said is probably what happened.
No, it's to be honest, that's the way a lot of industries work.
Yeah.
You if they're not core team, they're gonna let them go. It's kind of like thinking like freelancers. Like if they've already gotten everything out of a freelancer, like they were even responsible for a lot more, they're going to just let everybody go. And then as long as these guys on the other side of the thing know the formula to making this game, because they've already developed, I can't remember how many characters are in it. Is it 30? It can't be 30.
I don't know how many characters.
I don't know how many characters are in there.
I have no idea. I do want to say this just to stress that, man, because gotta bring this stuff home.
It's
speculation. No, and it's speculation. But just understand, Manny has worked and does work for 3 different industries: animation, comic books, and video game development. So he kind of knows what he's talking about, even if he has given his opinion. You know,
I'm giving an to put a nail in it. I'm giving an educated guess based on the industries that I had worked in.
Yeah.
So it could be a totally different thing. It could be,
we don't know at this point.
Like initially, like my first thought when I heard this story is like, oh, it's got to do with, it's a Chinese studio, it's dealing with America. Oh, it's got to do with all the political stuff having to do with terrorism.
That's everybody. Right? Oh, here we go. You know, it's like everybody went crazy.
I mean,
you know,
who knows? But but if we're talking about creative side of development and that sort of side, maybe it's a situation that, okay, now we know the formula to make this Marvel Rivals games, and if maybe those guys were like key in developing that essentially that pipeline, the way of creating a character and going across that sort of stuff, maybe those guys are a part of that. But I think as soon as they get this, I feel like once they've gotten it down, I think they just said, you know what, we don't need these guys. We can make this Marvel Rivals games without those guys.
Yep.
It sucks.
Yeah, it does suck. It's brutal. It goes to show that even if you work the most popular game out there, literally the most popular game out there, you're not safe. You know?
And then also, not to mention, like, if their team, depending on the size of their team, those guys who work in the United States,
fucking Brooklyn Bear. He goes, maybe they got let go because they said Shang-Chi was mid. Yeah, go ahead, Danny.
There's also the other thing to consider. Realize that all those guys that work in the States probably make 2 times or more than what they make in China.
That's true. You know,
it's exchange. I don't exactly know what the exchange rates are these days from China to the United States, but I can be definitely sure that the guys in China weren't making anywhere near than what those guys were probably making in the States.
Yeah,
and maybe they felt that was a necessary cut.
That's a good point. I wish people were actually bringing this up during these conversations. Everybody's just the most scandalous shit, you know? Yeah, good point, man. All right, so there you go. Very upsetting. But the game's doing well.
It's never cool when anybody, especially when it's always like, oh, here we go again. And so now from the onset, it's like, okay, now even good games, games that are doing well are getting shot down, right?
Yeah. Crazy. All right, let's get to go ahead. Yeah, go ahead, bro.
So some numbers.
Second
highest most played on Steam with 300,000 players at this moment.
At the moment.
Yep.
Well, Brian, there's over 250,000,000 people playing this right now.
Yep.
Wow.
Again, second highest most played game on Steam.
A third of a million, basically. Shit.
Second highest. What's the first?
Yeah, what's the first?
Counter-Strike,
come on, man.
Of course. Sorry.
Which one was it?
Counter-Strike.
Of course. Of course. Of course.
Of course.
What about the other? Was it the other one? The other Valve game? The other
Dota 2?
League of Legends?
Yeah, Dota. Yeah.
League is not tracked on Steam, as I think it has a separate launcher.
Okay, yeah, because
it's free to play. Brooklyn Bear, that's right. By the way, and I want to bring this up, Manny. Going back to wild speculation, some people are saying, "Oh, because it's a free to play game, they're not making any money, so they fire." They're probably making a fuck ton of money.
There was an article that said they've made over $2 billion or something.
Yeah, come on, they got money, bro.
No, I mean you put out that look at some of the costumes and they already have like 3 DLCs that are already just jumped in. With alternate outfits, man. Like they're making
money, and this is a Gooner's paradise. This game,
and I also,
you know those motherfuckers spending money. I need that new Sue Storm skin, bruh.
and then the other part of it is like the prices of those things are like dropping the hat money. It's like, hey, I'll throw 99 cents. I'll throw $2 here. Like it's not a lot they're asking.
Yeah, Gooners, exactly. Yeah, Brooklyn Bear says 2 billion. Convert that to the Chinese currency, money.
Yeah, I was It was weird. Like I was thinking of because there really just to go with the China thing a little bit. There's this animated movie that's already blown out all worldwide records on every single American film that has existed,
The China
and
effect.
they did it on on the equivalent of $5 of a $5 ticket price.
That's crazy.
There's just that many people in that country that literally just $5, you know. And I always say this, like the biggest issue with like film and on the comic industry is always price. When you have to start thinking about how much you're spending on something, especially with something like a movie, which should just be anybody should be able to go to it. You shouldn't have to think of how much it costs to go there. You shouldn't have to think about how much it costs to buy your comics or your little books. And I feel like that's the biggest thing. Like you see it even every single day when you go talking back to games, right? You have a 99 cents game, and that's like $1 billion game because nobody thinks $1 is much of anything. But hey, 1 billion people spend just $1, and you just got yourself $1 billion.
Yeah, you're right about that.
Yeah, and if that entertainment is affordable like that, they're more than likely to go back again just because they know it's a cheaper way to spend the time with their families and stuff.
Yeah.
No, you're right about that. Again, just to prove the point. Manny, how many fucking movies then we go see back in the day because there was like $4, $5? We didn't give a fuck. We just go see movies,
Yeah, we just go because we got a couple of hours. Hey, look, this new whatever movie's out. Sure, we'll go see it.
Yeah, it's like why not? But now it's like $20 to fuck.
Nowadays it's $20. Even like in some even the matinee prices.
Yeah,
are
man.
Exorbitant right now.
Fucking matinee prices are crazy. Anyway, let's move on. But some more fun. Let's lighten things up. Manny, regale us with some stories. Mr. Shuhei Yoshida has been out and about again, telling people stuff.
This guy is making the rounds. Like, you thought the bombs that he dropped on the Greg Miller's thing was a big deal, or the ones on whatever that other podcast. I totally forgot. I'm totally sorry about whatever that podcast name.
Isn't that your favorite podcast though?
I mean, I tell you,
the Game Informer podcast or whatever.
Yeah, former Game Informer people podcast.
Yeah.
So now the guy, I guess now Shuhei Yoshida getting onto a very some of what people consider a maybe very controversial.
Richard Bailey controversial?
He decided to pay a visit to former Sacred Symbols. Was it Sacred Symbols?
Yeah.
Or whatever.
Yeah, Mr. Colin Moriarty.
PS I Love You Sacred Symbols guy.
Yeah.
Colin Moriarty. Which
Colin Moriarty.
We're not really
my best friend.
Hey, he visited with Greg Miller, so he had to go to the other one. He had to go visit the guy that Greg Miller betrayed. Just saying. Just saying.
They've always both of them were like super like Sony dudes, so they Shuhei's probably returning the loyalty checks right now.
Yeah, so I'm unofficially calling this segment because I think there'll be more Shu says.
Yeah, or shoe bombs.
Yeah, shoe bombs.
If the shoe fits.
If the shoe fits.
If the shoe fits, yes.
Yeah.
So there's quite a bit of things he did. He did two things. He did not only did Colin's show, but there's also another show that he had done too, which we will. This is going to be a little bit of a hodgepodge of things. So one of the things that had come out is, and this is for the game Concord. Everybody's favorite video game, Concord, making millions of dollars and doesn't exist. Apparently, back when Shuhei Yoshida was still head of Sony PlayStation Worldwide Studios, right, which is the currently headed by Herman Holtz, he actually signed Concord. So now, remember,
controversial.
Controversial. But he said at the time they were a small team. They were a small core team, and they were putting this game together. And he signed them up to develop this game. I think we've said that the game had taken 8 years to complete. Yeah, so this was when he was still as part of us of Sony Worldwide. Because remember, in I think 2019, he changed positions to another role when a certain person took over as a head.
Yeah.
We'll be talking about that later. So yeah, he signed it. He thought it was a very interesting game at the time for what they had. Yeah, he doesn't give any more about it, but he just said he signed it. So, and it's a bunch of former former Bungie, the former Bungie CEO created. But it's just interesting seeing how that it's Harold Ryan is his name. It's very interesting seeing how long that game had been in development. It literally lasted as long as or about not as long as Shu had been in that position, but for a majority of that time, which makes it's amazing that even they put so much into it. It seems like
It's a lot of
anyway,
money.
that's a lot of money. Moving forward, Shuhei Yoshida, this
Hold on,
is the
I actually
guy
have
that-
some.
Okay.
I actually have some interesting questions I would like to ask, and we probably will never get the answers to these because how things work. But first answer is: so what did Concord look like when Shu signed it on?
It's a good question.
Because it must have been something interesting back then. And
It definitely
question,
might have been a game that evolved. I mean, some concept work had been leaked as to how some characters had looked in early builds of the game. And I'm wondering about when these within those 8 years when they decided to move toward the design sense that they currently have.
Again, that brings me to question number 2, which is who was responsible for steering Concord into what it was when it launched?
Yeah, we don't
Who
know.
knows?
Again, I'm fully confident we'll never get any answers to any of that.
Yeah.
But it's like when Manny was talking about it, those are the 2 questions that came into my head straight away.
Yeah, no, I agree. We'll probably never know those answers, though. Anyway, Manny, continue.
So, this is actually some nice news. So, Shuhei Yoshida is responsible for why Stellar Blade is on PlayStation. He went over to play it at Shift Up, and he really liked the game. He became a really big fan of it, and he brought it over to the third-party relations area. So, sort of opening the door for that studio. Cool stuff, It's nice to know that he was. He had a little bit of hand in getting that to show.
Yeah. Oh, real quick,
good stuff.
Kind of tying things together because Brooklyn Bear says that Concord is a rare L from Shuhei, but like Brian said, what did this game look like when he originally pitched it?
Yeah,
I think it was different.
It could've-
I
don't know if Concord may have been even the same game.
I don't think it must have been
Shuhei
very
played
different.
it.
Yeah. Our speculation, but yeah, that's what I think. Yeah.
Again, keywords. I think, we think. I don't know. Here's the thing. Like, obviously, Shuhei Yoshida has ills. It's not like he's infallible, right?
Yeah.
He thought that Demon Souls was way too hard.
Yeah.
And to bring in a portion of that in there, he thinks that's part of the reason why Miyazaki and From Software decided to go with Namco as opposed to going with Sony for their next title. Because if you remember, the game Demon Souls was only released in Japan, was released in Japan, and Sony refused to publish it around the world. So Atlas produced it here in the States, and Namco Bandai handled it out on other markets. And they decided to go with Namco Bandai for their next title. So that's one.
Which in hindsight is just utterly crazy, knowing that they slept on potentially Dark Souls like that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's an L. That's an L.
That's an L. Like he said it before, like he didn't, do it, but he's like, thankfully they came back to work with us again on Bloodborne. So yeah. But yeah, the Shift Up thing, the Demon Souls, which is the rare L from him. So this one's a big one. It says so. This one is actually about Japan Studio,
Oh,
and the reason why Japan Studio was closed. He said that Japan Studio, like as we have said, they are more of a double. We're always sort of a more double A, a lower budget sort of studio. And the reasoning why they were closed was because because of what we've said before, is they probably weren't making enough money for making enough money. In other words, they were making just enough to make to making just enough to continue making games, essentially pay off their budget and then move on to the next title. And this goes for every single one of their titles. Not only just Gravity Rush and the Shadow of the Colossus and all that. This is all of their games. Last Guardian, all of them. So, a lot of them critical darlings. A lot of them, but they only really did well enough to essentially get a little bit above what they've paid to make it. They came in under budget, stuff like that, but never like huge successes. And that's part of the reason why they were closed, is because they weren't making the billions. They weren't making like Last of Us money. They were just making enough to make more titles. And that's why they got closed. Which also goes around with Toyama, what Toyama said. Because of the way the industry sort of shifted away from those types of smaller games, it meant that they wanted him to spend more to make a AAA sort of title when he only felt that he wanted to make smaller titles where he had a lot more control over them. Because what happens when, rare occasions, obviously, like the Last of Us and Uncharted series, those guys kind of earned their way up, so they can kind of putz around and mess up and all that sort of stuff, right? But you don't get but again, like when you have a lot of money behind you, that means that the big guys on the tops have a lot more say as to what goes in your game. Possibly might have been what happened with Concord, where some people upstairs, because so much money is going into this thing, that they are saying what this game needs or doesn't need, but we don't know that. But in this situation, it's unfortunate. That's where their sort of AAA, sort of middle A or double A development studio went. It wasn't making enough money, so they closed it.
a damn shame.
This is another one from Shuhei Yoshida, and this is something we sit here on Throwdown many a times, and especially when a lot of fans were calling us out on this one. When it comes to talking about PC releases, PlayStation PC releases. And we said before in the past that, and we've also said it earlier in this show, that these games are essentially like printing money. Pretty much, there's no overhead, not a lot of overhead on there, and you literally get a shot in the arm of additional money on top of a game that's probably run its course on the PlayStation. So that's what Shuhei Yoshida said here. He says it's pretty much like printing money. We get that extra bit of money, and we don't need to have a lot of costs on top to get these games to run, and it's great. So we're probably, as we've seen, there's going to be more and more PC releases for PlayStation games. But I think the biggest thing to understand about like PC games, and Brian, who's and everybody else on here who's all PC gamers know this, there doesn't seem to be an expiration date on PC titles. You could
Skyrim is proof of that.
you can release a game a few years, like at least like 4 years after, or even more than when it was released on its key, its main console, and everybody will start picking it up. Unlike in a situation with like the game Tomb Raider, which was an exclusive on the Xbox, and then it came over onto PlayStation at PlayStation 4, like maybe a year later. The numbers were incredibly low.
Yeah, Rise of the Tomb Raider. Yeah.
It was the Rise of the Tomb Raider, and the FOMO, because the FOMO was over. That was it. Like it ran its course on the Xbox, and everybody just like, all right, whatever, it's gone now. So
Yeah.
good stuff.
This is the part I want to bring up because I got to gloat right now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. During that time when PlayStation really started bringing games over to PC, I said on Twitter, and I said this on this panel as well, and I got flack on both ends. I don't remember who on here I was arguing with. May have been Brett, because me and Brett are always fighting.
Usually,
right? But I said that I think that Sony's strategy was bring the game to PC, right? The first installment of a game, bring it to PC after it's been a while, and when the sequel comes out, that they hope that people who enjoyed playing the game on PC will buy a PlayStation. So many people got on my fucking ass about that. PC gamers would never do that. They'll never buy it on. They'll never buy a console when they could just wait for the game. I said I didn't say PC gamers would do it. I said that's probably Sony's thinking. No, you're wrong. Right? Shuhei flat out said that shit. He said, we want to put these games on PC, and we hope that when the sequel comes out, some of them may buy the console to play the sequel. Bam! Motherfuckers love talking shit, And again, because they were coming at me for the wrong thing. I didn't say this is what's going to happen. I said this is Sony's thinking. This is what they want to happen. No, PC gamers would never do that. I'm not saying they're going to do that. You fucking ignorant piece of shit. I'm saying this is Sony's thinking, and Shuhei just confirmed it. So suck it.
Yeah, the thing about it is it's like, I don't know. I agree with the fan sentiment that I don't think it is something that will happen, but I do agree that maybe that Sony sort of thought, PlayStation sort of thought that this was a way to sort of keep,
possible way
to essentially attract people to their console. Probably a weird way to think of things, because usually PC people are just like, nah, man, I'm all about that shit.
Yeah, no, it's true. But, PC guys was like, fuck it, I'll wait. Obviously, that's true. But people thought that's what I was arguing. I wasn't arguing that. I said this is what Sony's thinking. Just like, and I said this, right? With Microsoft, right? What is the big strategy with Xbox? I said they probably want fucking mobile gamers to get on this shit because there's billions of them. And that's exactly the idea, did it? And we all said, no, that's not going to work because mobile gamers and normal gamers are way different, right? We said that. We know this, but that's their thinking. Their thinking is, if we can get 2 billion people on Xbox Game Pass, we'll be making them money. Yes, but as we've proven, people who play mobile games and people who play, I'm going to say real fucking games, they're two different people. There's no cross-pollination there. I mean, maybe in some cases, but generally speaking, it's not going to happen. You can't pay me. Bro, I'm a professional video game reviewer. I will not review one of those fucking games. You have done it. Like one, I was like, yeah, I'm not doing this shit again. And again, this anecdotal, there's that story, again, the story Brett told. Perfect. Anecdotal, obviously, where he was at the tattoo shop, he, working on a client, man's on his phone, playing some fucking shit game, and Brett offers him a Switch. Real console. The guy's like, no, I'm good. Because it's not the same. So Xbox's strategy, I understand where they're coming from, but they don't understand the way gamers are.
They don't get it. And I think even with that situation, they don't understand what the
Yo, Cicero, you called me on a fire night, bro. I'm not normally this worked up, but I got to talk some shit right now, bro. Just saying. Anyway,
I think that's the thing, and I think definitely it's a weird sort of mentality. But here's another way I may think of this not working, but might be an interesting side effect to this. So the one thing about PC games, and we've seen this with Skyward, and we've seen this with a lot of other titles, is that they stay out in the zeitgeist a little longer than most, right? And even having a release of a Spider-Man 1 and Spider-Man Miles Morales in between the development of the new Spider-Man game, it keeps the that in the zeitgeist a little longer. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It keeps the thought of this new of these titles being in the zeitgeist a little longer. Kind of like when Days Gone got released, and then it eventually got released on the, onto the PC, and then obviously it's going to get a remaster or whatever. And I feel like those sorts of things do help as far as a visual side to try to keep. Granted, you're never going to forget a Spider-Man game's going to come, but it does keep it out there a little longer. And then obviously you get a whole new bunch of stuff coming through. Oh, hey, look, people taking screenshots, people playing the game. You can get a lot more conversation, a lot more buzz to continue forward. But yeah, so that was one of them. And let's see. And here is the big one.
Uh-oh.
Shuhei Yoshida said that pretty much Jim Ryan gave him a choice. A choice that he couldn't, he pretty much couldn't refuse. He pretty much said, "You will take the indie job, or you will have to leave."
Fuck.
This was his position. He remember that Shuhei Yoshida took the position of the head of PlayStation Worldwide Studios, and in 2019, he was, by some people's senses, it was it was by some people's senses that he was downgraded to the head of the indie department, which was formerly Gio Corsi's job.
Yeah.
Who Gio Corsi left and now works at Nintendo. Funny about that. But yeah, so Mr. Jim Ryan gave him a choice as to if you want to stay. If you want to stay, you got to take this indie role, or you gotta get out.
That's wild.
I surmise when Jim, and we're probably going to talk about this later. I think about something, but like at 2016, there was a lot of movement happening at PlayStation. If you notice, guys like Adam Boyes and a couple of other key people who were essentially the guys that sort of pulled PlayStation out of its downward spiral from the PlayStation 3 to the 4, all started leaving. I don't know if it's if it's a change. There's some changes behind the scenes, but eventually it all ended up with Jim Ryan as the head. And what happens usually when what happens when a foreign, not a foreign entity, he was in this company for a while, but usually what happens when certain people take power, a lot of times they start to clear the dance floor. Didn't happen classically before, right? A lot of the same people sort of just move positions. Like, Shuhei Yoshida took over the head of PlayStation Worldwide from our good buddy who ended up at Gaikai, right? If you remember who that is. So, I feel like maybe that he felt like Jim Ryan wanted to essentially clear the dance floor, get rid of all the people that were there from before, and essentially and put in the people that he wanted to have in those positions. Herman Hulst and a couple of the other guys that are underneath. So, I mean, I'm not saying Jim is a bad guy, but it's, it sounds kind of screwy, especially when under Yoshida's watch and the other guys' watch, they were the people that essentially pulled the PlayStation out of that doldrum that was the PlayStation 3. And then the upward momentum of the 4. And this happened at the end of the PlayStation, pretty much the end of the PlayStation 4 era, right? Do you think he did it in 2019? Right before the year?
Because I remember at the time we talked about it. It was like, why are all these PlayStation guys leaving? And like you said, it kind of did start around 2016. 2016 is when they moved to San Mateo, and then Jim Ryan took over like 4 years later officially. But obviously, and we don't know the full story. And some of what Manny said is him kind of trying to fill in the pieces.
It's just speculation, just speculation based on the pieces,
But but obviously a shift happened, and but obviously the part about him, Shu being given a choice, that, or at least according to Shuhei, did happen. And I also kind of agree with your speculation that it was Jim Ryan trying to clear house. Like, okay, I'm running shit now. Let me bring in, whoever I want to bring in. My speculation.
Literally.
There. Yeah, literally, yeah. And again, we'll kind of slightly bring this up towards the end of the show. But yeah, very interesting, and just another thing that we could lobby against Mr. Ryan, because obviously we make no words. We don't mince words around here. We don't like Jim Ryan. We've been complaining about his regimes from the jump, and this is why none of us were upset. Not only were none of us upset in the panel, even the guys in the chat were like, "Yeah, good,"
I mean, like the thing about it is just the checks and balances from this guy. Hey, nobody. Oh, hey, nobody wants to play old games. Too. Hey, close down that PlayStation 3 store with all PlayStation 3 and PlayStation Vita store and PlayStation Portable store. But there's all these different things that are just like, I'm not gonna say anti-consumer, but really anti whatever was classically them. He, obviously he was part of, he was part of one of the executives, a part of the whole thing. I don't know exactly what he had done before, but he had worked at PlayStation for years. I think as I remember, he was PlayStation Europe, but I don't know that for sure. And then, the things, the kind of thing, the unfortunate things at the end of his time there, where essentially going over to that essentially the studio that did what was that London game? It was PlayStation's answer to Grand Theft Auto.
Getaway?
Anyway, yeah, the company that it was the company that developed the Getaway. He went over there. They all thanked him. They threw out a cake for him and all that good stuff. And then after that, they're fired.
Yeah.
So he didn't tell them. He just accepted this cake and accepted this celebration for him.
Yeah, that was cold-blooded, man.
That's cold-blooded right there, man. I mean, granted, business people are pretty damn cold-blooded, but it's like, come on, man, really? If I were him, I wouldn't have went over there. I would have been like, oh man, this is fucked up. I'm literally just standing there just celebrating me, and what is this shit? Giving me all kinds of stuff.
He didn't care.
I don't know, but he didn't care. He's just like, oh, it's amazing. They love me so much.
It's crazy. All right. Anything else about Shuhei stories?
No, those were the ones that sort of stood out to me. But man, they did not give Shuhei Yoshida a non-disclosure agreement on the way out. He's just letting the floodgates open all over the damn place. I'm fascinated because usually when it comes to number one, and when it comes to Japanese developers or Japanese executives, once they leave a place, they're quiet. You don't hear anything.
Yeah.
Like Toyama, former director of Gravity Rush, he could have said a lot of things. He only just gave little bits and pieces as to what happened. A couple of the other guys too, there's also former Kojima Productions people or even Kojima himself. He's never been forthcoming about any of the stuff that had gone on with him at the end of Konami. Maybe they had him sign a gag order. Who knows? But it's really fascinating seeing how much stuff is coming out of Yoshida.
Well, Shuhei, he spent a huge portion of his tenure there cultivating relationships with media, especially Western media. So he's already had those connections and all the avenues to say what he wants to say. With Kojima, I wouldn't be surprised if Konami had something on him that's like, hey, you can't talk about anything or disclose anything.
I still find it weird that that Kojima was able to essentially keep the name of his studio on the way out, make essentially a Kojima Productions 2 and not call it something else. I don't mean I'm speculating here. Granted, I did work at Konami, but I don't hear anything over there. I was just a grunt working on a game, but to me, it just sounds like they made some sort of deal. Seems like they made some sort of deal for him to keep his name, and then possibly, just the gag order, just never say anything about anything that happened over to him. I'm sure Guillermo del Toro knows, and I'm sure Jeff Keighley knows.
Jeff Keighley.
But I'm sure we will probably never know as to it. But again, it's nice to have Yoshida be pretty forthcoming about a lot of this stuff. And even when he was there, they were pretty open, as open as they could be, But I think that was part of the strategy too, where essentially, we're trying, that was the time, when they had the PlayStation, what do you call that? The PlayStation convention that they used to have. They did that for like 3 years. What was it called? Direct PlayStation.
So the PlayStation experience. I went to 2 of those. Yeah.
Yeah, it was like 3. They did it for like 3
years. Yeah,
they
did 3 years. Yeah, I went to 2, the last 2. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like, I don't know. I mean, it's you can definitely see a change within the company. As soon as they closed that they closed the PlayStation, they stopped doing those conventions and they sort of went in. I don't know. But anyway, look forward to any other tidbits of stuff that Yoshida might have to say. I'm also sort of interested to seeing what kind of role he wants to play in general. Is he going to be doing like a, pretty much, like an advisory role? Like he sort of said he still wants to do that, stay connected. And he's still traveling around, by the way. He went over to, what was it, the DICE and GDC, and he's still doing these, these different shows and still showing up. He doesn't need to.
Yeah.
Theoretically, he retired. He should just be at home, like, hanging out with his family or whatever he does. But no, he still wants to stay involved. So it's good stuff.
Yeah. By the way, there was 4 of them in recent years. The PlayStation experience.
Yes.
So yeah, just to clarify there.
Oh yeah, I it was like 3 or 4.
Yeah, it was 4 of them. Yeah, but I did attend 2 of them, and Rich was there for the last one as well. That's where we got to meet Mr. Otaku Man in real life. I had at least. Shout out to Kuel, by the way. GCDR, my man, goes like, hey, did you have a podcast? Did you have a Microsoft podcast called The Fanboys? Put respect on that name, man. Put respect on that name, The Fan Zone, man. And we have one of the founders on here, Mr. Carlos, Respect, man.
The Fan Zone.
The Fan Zone. Man.
I always loved how the Fan Zone came about. Whereas, like, they felt that the other show wasn't doing their due diligence. They felt that the Warzone wasn't doing their due diligence when it was talking about games.
Yeah, Jagon, loves to play with dragons. And of course, Mr. Damian, Tony, you're a pony.
You're a pony.
Yo, I forgot who it was, man. I remember that one time we were doing a live stream and I started doing the Damien accent. And my man and you do this how you do. My man was from New York. He's like Golden Crust. I fucking lost it, man. If you guys remember Jamaica Avenue, Golden Crust, where they sell those beef patties.
Yes.
Jamaican beef patties. And my man said Golden Crust. I was done, bro.
Oh, no.
Yeah, Other Zinc, our favorite fan, and Rich, you remember Other Zinc very well because he hounded the fucking coalition for years too, Other Zinc, whatever. I last time I heard of him, he was like hounding other YouTubers and shit, going into their comments, talking all this shit. Characters, man. I'm telling you, I've been hated by the Xbox community for the entirety of my career, bro. It's hilarious. Anyway, go ahead, Rich. Yeah, you remember Other Zinc and Damien and all these characters?
Oh yeah, I do remember some of these people. They blocked me on Twitter, some of them. But let me just say this: for those that want a good little history as to Other Zinc and his interactions, I will highly recommend you go to our YouTube channel and check out his in-depth back and forth debate with our good friend Charles Singletary. That was by far the most entertaining versus that I have ever been a part of as a moderator. So very good.
I jumped in there. I caught strays and shit. Yeah, that was a wild podcast. I remember at the end of it, Charles was like, man, I shouldn't have done this shit. Oh man. Oh shit. GCR goes, Tony, here's something funny. I have old Throwdown episodes on my hard drive. Remember Heart Jest? That's how old shows. Damn, my man.
Going back.
That's like that's the Precambrian era Throwdown right there, you know.
What was that? What was the era before the Jurassic?
You know, yeah, it was the fucking Cambrian and shit, wasn't it? Right before the Mesozoic era, and like, bro,
Well,
that's old Throwdown. Old. That was when we still had the original numbering. You know.
Yep. 'Cause,
GZDR, I may have to hit you up, man, about those old episodes, man. You know, if you have them in a hard drive, we may need them. You know?
Yeah, like there's I mean, obviously, if there was on SoundCloud, there's actually a cut at some point.
Yeah.
As to where we did, because we used to do it on a different platform. I can't remember what that was. It was whatever torrents used to use. And
oh shit! Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Those episodes that were on the STFU and Play, those are all gone until we started, essentially backing them up onto the SoundCloud.
Yeah. All right, GCR, I'll hit you up on Discord. I'm glad that, because those episodes are basically gone. You know.
Yeah, those are pretty much gone.
Yeah, so I'm glad you have those. Anyway, so there was a couple other stories, but I'm like, they're not that important. We'll get rid of them. I do want to bring up one last thing before we wrap up. So I got a message, and I'm not going to name any names. So I got a message from, speaking about longtime fans, from another very longtime fan that said that we had recently gotten some like wrong information. He wanted some clarity. Basically, he thought, because and I'm saying this is what he said, because I don't remember anybody on a podcast saying this. He said that we said that it was because of Jim Ryan that Sony moved to San Mateo. That's obviously not true. San Mateo move happened in 2016. Ryan took over around like 2019, 2020 and stuff. And he just said, like, he's been listening to the podcast for a long time, and that, he just wants us to do our due diligence. And I want to take that as an opportunity to say, and I want to give a shout out to the guys in the chat, because you do a good job of this already. Obviously, if we ever get anything wrong, let us know. We are not here to try to spread any kind of misinformation. There's too many podcasts out there that just love throwing a bunch of bullshit out there. We don't want to be one of those podcasts. So we're human. We're going to get shit wrong. And we have gotten shit wrong, obviously. So, if you ever feel that we've gotten anything wrong, do not hesitate to let us know. Do it on Discord. You can DM me on Twitter, whatever. Just let us know, because we want to say, we want to stay true. You know what I'm saying? Exactly. Gonna make a mistake. It happens. But we're not intentionally trying to mislead anybody. Obviously not. But yeah, I just wanted to say that. And Manny, I know you wanted to tie in something related to that. You're muted.
Oh no, I already said a lot of that on the earlier thing when we were talking a little bit about the thing there. But yeah, I mean that's about it.
Yeah. So there you go. Yep. All right. Good stuff.
I mean, yeah. We're not one of those guys or like podcasts who are like, oh no, this is the end. This is the way it goes. Like, again, it's happens. So thanks.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, just, if we ever get anything wrong, let us know. Brooklyn Bear. NAC 3 announce. Yeah, there you go. You heard it here first. World premiere, world exclusive. NAC 3 confirmed coming to Xbox. Yeah, by the way, that's one of the complaints the Xbox guys say, and I kind of feel a little sympathy for them. Like, hey, how come we're not getting PlayStation games? Because you notice it's only going in one direction, right?
MLB The Show?
Yeah, you get, there you go. You get that. So I kind of understand. It's like, hey, wait a minute. We're not getting nothing,
It's going in the wrong direction, because PlayStation's making the money.
Yeah.
And they don't need to.
Yeah.
All
right, man. So wrapping it up here. For the weekend and for the next 4 weeks, you can check out the Invincible podcast over on the Coalition's YouTube channel. That is with me, Rich, Carlos, and Dana, and maybe we'll have Chris Seeley on this week, depending if his daughter isn't going crazy as she usually does. Shout out to Olivia, So that's what's going on there. I feel like there was something else I needed to bring up, but yeah, go check that out. Oh, and also just for fun, go check out the Fatal Fury beta. I was playing it, a lot of fun. And the other thing that's what it was, right? Monster Hunter World comes out next week, people. Yeah, so the Monster Hunter streams are back, so stay tuned. Probably tomorrow night, Manny and I, and whoever else wants to join, are going to do a test stream just to iron out the kinks. Because I'm going to do it just simpler. I'm just going to stream directly from PlayStation. But we're also going to have one guy stream to YouTube, another guy stream to Twitch, so everybody gets covered. Because I don't have an Elgato, and I don't feel like buying a new one. But
Wait, you don't have an Elgato?
I don't know what happened to the old one, but the old one isn't really good because I have a better TV, better PlayStation.
Oh yeah, you probably want to get the 4K.
I want to get the 4K 60 one. I had the old one, 1080p, I believe. I wasn't even 4K. Although I've been eyeing the Elgato Pro, they call it. It's like a cheaper model, or I could just hit up Elgato, like I said, but I'll have to review it. That's the caveat, So we'll see what happens. So yeah, Monster Hunter streams will be back, and there's going to be more Monster Hunter stuff. That's all I'm going to say about that. Stay tuned. But yeah, Rich, what else is going on with the Coalition this weekend?
Yeah, so as Tony already mentioned, we have another Invincible podcast coming to you guys this weekend. Stay tuned for that. Give a shout out to our very good friend, Mr. Adam Vale. He has a show that we released today called Talking Reacher, which is about the Amazon Prime show Reacher. So him and his very good friend Lawrence, a punk with toys, these guys recorded 3 episodes because Amazon released the first 3 episodes of the show, and we have all 3 episodes of that review is currently on Spotify, the YouTube channel, and the website. So definitely check it out. Let us know what you think. Leave your comments and let us know if you enjoy the show. One other quick thing to mention, we will be bringing back the Power Podcast next month, a couple weeks from now. So if you are a fan of Power, the Stars TV show, not the PlayStation show, okay? I got to say that every time I say Power.
I don't think anybody remembers the PlayStation show, to be honest.
Okay, well, that's all good.
Yeah.
But yeah, stay tuned for that. And as for gaming, there are plenty of things on the horizon. Obviously, we still have a review that's coming for Pirate Yakuza. And we actually published a review for Lost Records. That was Tatiana's review. That's currently on the website. So if you are a Life is Strange fan, you might want to check out that game because a lot of people are saying pretty good things about that. And one last comment. There will be some more content, more reviews coming next week. Something pretty wild next week as well. So stay tuned for that.
Were you giving a hint when you said that? Look to the horizon.
Oh yeah. Well, I don't know if that was. I don't know if that's related, but, maybe it could be. Yeah, it might be.
Yeah, it might be. But there may have been another clue. But yeah, stay tuned. Oh, by the way, Rich, some of the guys in the chat, specifically Kuel and Brooklyn Bear, they loved Powers. So there you go.
Hey.
Oh, okay, all right. Hey, well, that's good to know.
It's a good comic.
It was a good comic. Yeah, it was a good comic for sure. See, I'm the opposite end, man. Because I read the comic, I liked that. I saw the first episode, I'm like, this is nothing like the comic, and I stopped watching it. I was like, nah, I'm good. I was like, fuck.
They gave it away for free on PlayStation 3. They gave like the first episode.
Yeah, I saw the first episode. I'm like, damn, man. They like, did you guys bother reading the fucking comic book? What the fuck is this shit? And I just stopped.
It had the dude from what's that from District 9 in it.
Yeah, I did.
Remember that?
But it is not. It's the opposite of the Invincible podcast, which is very faithful to the comics. So yeah, good stuff. I'm looking forward to that.
Speaking of comics,
comic books.
Speaking of comics, so yeah, I remember how I thought these covers were going to be coming out in October.
I wish you weren't so
they're
fucking
actually
blurry
coming-
right now. God damn it.
Oh man. Oh,
Yeah.
so sorry. Yeah, because you're all frozen and I'm all messed up. Over
Yeah,
here.
it's not your fault. It's just the streaming shit. But anyway, plug what you got to plug.
Anyway, so yeah, you can't. It's hard to see in my hand, but this is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles #1. It's a new series that's going to be coming out soon, or coming out now. It's actually on store shelves right now, or coming soon. Yeah, and this is going to be a 4-cover series that me and Kari Randolph and myself are doing. So the first one, you can't see it. It's Donatello doing something really cool, doing some cool stuff. So yeah, we're gonna have each cover is going to be. I got to explain it, you guys. Each cover is going to be a different turtle, and a different turtle cover. So if you can get them all 4, all done by us. So yeah, that's coming out real soon in the months to come. So next month I think will be Michelangelo. So yep.
Yeah.
So, can I ask a quick question? First and foremost,
Yes.
I will be checking that out and supporting that. But I have to ask this question, Manny. Is this the same version of the Ninja Turtles that are currently going to be in Call of Duty?
Well, so the way you can tell, which I think these are actually the same turtles that are in the Call of Duty.
Oh,
You can kind of tell by the way. So all the modern turtles, like IDW turtles, all have arm wraps on them. So they all have their arms and legs all wrapped up at the tops and the bottoms, and that's sort of been the look of the turtles that have been the TV show stuff.
okay.
So they've all sort of had that arm wrapped look, and I think they might be the ones that are the current IDW comic ones, which that's cool. But yeah.
Yeah.
Manny's like Leonardo, Donatello, and Michelangelo.
Leonardo is the
Raphael wasn't the leader of the group. What are you talking about? Remember the lyrics to that song? He wasn't the leader of the group. Piece of this. I'm gonna start rapping that thing, man. TMNT is going to be catching hands in the gulag. Oh shit!
Uh-oh.
I don't know what that meant. Damn it! By the way, yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, there's those moments where like Manny's camera's just crisp and clear. This is not one of them. Fuck. When you're trying to plug the comic book,
Let me lower the frame, the resolution. How's that? No, still bad?
No, it's just the stream. That's just how it is.
Whatever.
Yeah, that's right. Uncle Phil, he was the voice of Shredder. That is actually very true.
Voice of Shredder, yes.
I know you talking about Spencer.
Yeah.
James Avery.
Yeah, James Avery. Shout out to him.
Rest in peace.
Unfortunately, he passed away.
He was also that metal villain in Fist of the North Star. Rao,
He's like-
you call yourself Rao the Conqueror and King of the World.
I have turned my body to metal.
Yeah. Now they die. That was all. It's Fist of the North Star, man. Streamlined Pictures.
There you go.
That you got to watch that version. Like when I watched the Japanese one, like the dialogue is so kind of basic, Death must not be rushed. It must be savored like fine wine and enjoy its aroma. Fucking Raw the Conqueror, man.
Yes.
Yep. All right. Watch them try to recreate his voice on AI. Man, don't get me started on that shit, bro.
Does it work now?
No, you're blurry as fuck. Maybe next time when we do the podcast and you're like clear, like, Manny, do it now.
Don't pull it up.
Even if we're in the middle of some shit, Oh, by the way, I gotta hit up Brett, but I saw him jump into the Discord the other day, so I guess he's doing good. I think it was something about Avowed. He jumped in there. Of course, he did about Avowed. But yeah, Brett's still recovering. For you guys who don't know,
Is he playing it? Is he playing Avowed?
I think he is. Yeah, because I know he was waiting for it. So that's probably.
I'd like to hear his perspective on it.
Yeah.
What does he think?
Yeah, but yeah, when he gets back after he's recovered from the back surgery, back surgery / disembowelment. You know, what happened? For you guys who don't know, they had to do back surgery, but they said the safest way was to go in through the front. You know, so they had to get to some bowel to get to his back. You know, but he's recovering, so that's good. He didn't lose any of his step. You know, like 2 days after surgery, he called me, you know, with the fire in his belly, you know, about something, you know, about some woke shit, you know, whatever the fuck it was, you know. These fucking assholes are ruining gaming. I'm like, yes, they are, you know. So I'm like, Brett's all right, you know. Good shit. All right, we're done, man. So make sure you follow Throwdown on Twitch and Twitter. Subscribe to us on YouTube, join the Discord, and follow us on your favorite podcast app. Links to everything down below. Once again, our show is Tony Polanco, and tonight was joined by Emilio Lopez.
See you next time.
Carlos Romero.
Peace out.
Richard Bailey Jr.
Have a good weekend, everybody.
And Brian Manjoma.
7 days left, and I still haven't got my copy of Wild yet.
Oh, shit.
Oh,
I haven't even bought it yet.
Yeah. Well, we'll see about that. All right, guys. We'll see you on